There we go. Forgot to turn my microphone on. There we go. Now you can hopefully hear me. How are we all doing? Are we ready? Raring to go. I'm just getting my stream set up for myself on the other monitor. Where is Formula One HD? Let's get into it. How are we all feeling? Should we have a little look at qualifying once again? Let's have a little look at our top 20 in order. Hello, Antonio. How you doing? Sally in the chat as well. JM Karting as well. Rabbit playing. Arav in there as well. How are we all doing? Yeah, apologies for the no audio. That was completely me. Just forgot to unmute my microphone at the beginning of the session. I have to mute it, otherwise it records all day every day, and I don't need that. So I turn it off every now. Sound working. Perfect. Hello, Ken. Ariost as well. Anonymous R, how's it going? Afifa Afzal? Why have you got a different kind of text to everybody else? Jamie in the chat as well. How are you doing? Let's have a little chat about it then. Oh, I'm feeling, I don't know what it was. I kind of came away from qualifying yesterday and I was chatting to a few of my friends last night and I was like, I've just got a good feeling about today's race. I'm not sure what it is. I've just got a really good feeling that we're going to get an absolute banger of a Grand Prix. I know Saudi Arabia is usually pretty good. Like, if you think back, we've been here, what, 4 times now? This is the 4th Grand Prix in Saudi Arabia, 2021, 22, 20, 24. Yeah, 4th Grand Prix in Saudi Arabia, which seems mental. So this is the 4th time I've streamed the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. So I was here for the first one. And I feel like every single one has been pretty good. I feel like there's been some controversies. I feel like there's been some action. I feel like there's been some safety cars, some red flags. You know, you think back to the first one, where it was Lewis versus Max, of course, in 2021. What an absolute banger of a season. And it was the penultimate race. It led up to Abu Dhabi. We had the brake check incident with Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen in that one, and that was so fun. Like, it was just crazy that was there, and it was the first time we were in Saudi Arabia, and it was that season. Then on top of that, last year, was it last year we had Esteban Ocon? Or was it the season before? I can't remember which season it was. We had Esteban Ocon at one point or another having an absolute blinder of a Grand Prix. And we had him battling it out at the front of the grid. It was crazy. And it was during a red flag. And then Esteban Ocon was put in and amongst the pack. And it was insane. Can't remember when that was, but I just remember that one too. Watch the Abu Dhabi 2021 live at my dad's house. Teddy Wells, keep it up. Thank you so much. Antonio, no race on stream. You can Google it though. Yeah, of course. Yeah, unfortunately, I don't have the license to stream Formula One. I wish I did. I feel like, a few more memberships, maybe we can get that kind of money behind us. I don't know how much Sky pay for the UK rights of Formula One, but I feel like it's probably a considerable chunk that I, at this point, considering I'm saving up for a brand new computer so that I can do this more often and to a higher standard, probably not going to be putting in the cash that Sky can offer the likes of Formula One for their TV rights anytime soon. But on that note, new stream setup coming very, very soon. It will look exactly the same to you guys, but I will have a PC that actually functions, because my PC I bought 10 years ago. And that is all you really need to know, isn't it? The advancements that we have made in computing technology in 10 years, I have none of those available to me, and that is what I make all of my videos on, do all of these live streams on, and I haven't really had the chance to upgrade the PC in any way whatsoever, but I've decided now is the time, and I've started to put together a little bit of a list. I'm going to try and build a PC, which could be an absolute disaster. Never done it before. Let me know in the chat if you've built a PC in the past. Was it doable? Could someone who, you know, has a little bit of background in understanding electronics and a little bit of background in how computers work, but not much, actually put a PC together? Let me know in the chat, please. Maybe Ollie will stir the pot, some chaos to come from him. Young Jedi, I love your thoughts and feelings. Let's talk about the 10 drivers in the top 10 to begin with, though. Q3 yesterday saw Max Verstappen take pole position. Charles Leclerc just behind. So Bahrain 2.0. Max Verstappen at the top. A Ferrari just behind him in second place. And let's face it, it was an absolutely phenomenal lap from Max Verstappen. It gave me vibes of 2021, actually. Remember qualifying in 2021 where Max Verstappen was on for like a lap that was just obscenely quick. One of those laps that we would look back on in 10 years' time and be like, that was just phenomenal. He was on for one of those in 2021, but he hit the wall at the final corner and ended up coming second in that qualifying, I think, and started behind Lewis Hamilton when really he should have started on pole. Yesterday, the lap that he put in, if you get the chance to watch the onboard, just do. Phenomenal stuff from Max Verstappen. It was so clean and so close to the walls so many different times. Just incredible from Max, and showing again, like, even when it's close, even when Leclerc looked like he was going to be close, Alonso looked like it was going to be close, McLaren's, they look like they might be able to close in on the Red Bull over the course of this weekend. Max just brought it out when he needed to, picked up that pole position. Charles Leclerc, though, starting in second place. Will Charles Leclerc finally be able to do the reverse? We've seen so many pole positions in Charles Leclerc's favour end up as Max Verstappen victories. Will it now be Charles Leclerc can take a victory from a Max Verstappen pole? Can he do the switcheroo? That would be absolutely incredible if he could do. Sergio Perez then starts in third place, the other Red Bull. And Sergio Perez obviously has won here in the past, got his first ever pole position here as well, Sergio Perez. This is a track that he likes. And as much as he came under fire last year, Sergio Perez, he started the year incredibly quickly. Like, we were talking about a possible championship battle between Verstappen and Perez up until around sort of 6-7 Grand Prix into the season last year. Then Max Verstappen kind of clicked into overdrive and just disappeared off into the distance. But Sergio Perez, starting in third place, is also right in and amongst it and could offer Max Verstappen a little bit of a headache because he does like this track. He does go well here. Fernando Alonso, it feels like he might have outdone the performance of the Aston Martin once again. You remember back in Bahrain a week ago, he was talking about he qualified in 6th place, I want to say, or somewhere around there, 5th or 6th place, Fernando Alonso. He's kind of done the same here. He's kind of jumped up to 4th place in the Aston Martin. I'm not sure that's going to be where the race pace of the Aston Martin actually is. I think this is Fernando Alonso doing Fernando Alonso things and putting that car above where it really sits in the standings in terms of pace. Although, on the flip side of that, we've heard Fernando Alonso saying he thinks that the Aston Martin has so much of a straight line speed advantage over the McLarens, he thinks he's going to be able to keep Piastri and Norris behind this time around, which is something he wasn't able to do in Bahrain. So we'll have to keep that updated and keep an eye on Fernando Alonso because, as I just mentioned, the two McLarens are starting just behind. Oscar Piastri in 5th place, Lando Norris in 6th place. The Papaya Boys, my Papaya Boys, just behind. I will be supporting McLaren as always. There is Jose Mourinho on the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix grid. Okay, wasn't expecting Jose Mourinho to be seen here. Obviously out of a job at the moment. Ditched out of Roma fairly recently. Watched Roma versus Brighton midweek. If you missed that, it was an absolute banger. Roma ran away with it. I do love Roma as kind of my Italian team. But that's beside the point. Oscar Piastri, Lando Norris starting 5th and 6th place. I think they'll be looking at Fernando Alonso and thinking that they can get him like they did last time around in Bahrain. Whether or not they can move any further forwards, I think the likelihood of us seeing a McLaren on the podium would go down to probably Perez or Leclerc making a mistake or some kind of collision reliability issue for one of those guys in front. I don't think the McLarens are quite there yet in terms of the overall pace. I think, in fact, they'll probably be looking behind at George Russell and Lewis Hamilton. Like George Russell starting in 7th, Hamilton starting in 8th. It's going to be interesting to see where those two kind of line up with one another. We've then also got Yuki Tsunoda and Lance Stroll starting in 9th and 10th place. Yuki Tsunoda's a little bit of a curveball here. I guess he is the Nico Hulkenberg of this week. We're expecting those top 5 teams to kind of represent in the top 5 places on the Formula 1 grid, but Yuki Tsunoda has managed to sneak in there because Ollie Behrman dropped out in just 11th place, but we'll get to him in a moment. Yuki Tsunoda, I feel like, is the wild card here. Keep an eye on the RB. He did really well last weekend. Obviously, he has got the bit between his teeth. He'll want to show to RB that he is the man in this car and that he is better than Daniel Ricciardo, but starting from 9th place, there's a lot to do in that RB car. I feel like, you know, last time around, we saw the RBs do okay, but they did finish behind Joe. They did finish behind Magnussen. They weren't, you know, right up there where we thought they were maybe going to be coming into this season. They didn't quite have that level of performance to really beat out those other competitors around the back of the pack. But Yuki Tsunoda was running in the points in Bahrain for a few laps. He looked fairly settled there, and maybe RB just got the strategy slightly wrong last time out. Hopefully, they can get it better going this time around. Yuki Tsunoda might be in for a shout of points. Lance Stroll starts in 10th place just behind. Lance Stroll, I feel like, well, finished in 10th place in Bahrain, starts 10th place in this one. I feel like he had really good pace in Bahrain. You know, he obviously missed out on jumping up into the top 10 off the start because he was then wiped out by Valtteri Bottas and Nico Hulkenberg, went to the back of the pack, but managed to get that Aston Martin all the way back up into the top 10 in Bahrain. He's starting there this weekend. Hopefully, a little bit of a cleaner start for Lance Stroll, and we'll see what kind of pace he really has in and amongst the pack that he wants to be racing against, rather than him kind of scything his way through the field, getting past the Hasses, the RBs, the Williamses of this world, which he had to do last weekend. Then the main man himself, Ollie Behrman, the man who everybody has got their eye on, starts in 11th place. He was so close. He said himself after qualifying, he was so close to getting through to Q3. Nearly dropped out Lewis Hamilton from qualifying 3. That would have been a hell of a storyline in and of itself. Obviously, Lewis Hamilton taking that seat at Ferrari next year, replacing Carlos Sainz as Ollie Behrman is this weekend. Just to keep you kind of posted, Carlos Sainz has had that appendix surgery. There was an image of Carlos Sainz Jr. and Carlos Sainz Sr. in the hospital together. All the surgery seems to have gone well, and therefore it's looking likely that we will have Carlos Sainz back on the Formula 1 grid in a couple of weeks' time in Australia. We'll have to kind of, you know, let him have a few days of recovery, see where he is in about a week's time. But generally speaking, I think Carlos Sainz will bounce back from this really quickly, and we'll see him on the grid once again, which will be amazing because he was so good in Bahrain. He was so positive. He drove that Ferrari car so effortlessly to a podium finish that I think, you know, getting him on the grid would be lovely. Thank you, Big Snens, for subscribing. If you're new to the channel, hit subscribe, leave a like, all that good stuff. But I am interested to see what Ollie Behrman can do. Ollie Behrman starting in 11th place. Can he get some points from there? Sally, I was tempted to put money on George and Lewis taking each other out of the first lap. Yeah, it's going to be... I didn't mention that, to be fair. The fact that the two Mercedes cars are starting next to one another. We've seen that go pretty poorly a few times last year. You know, they came together... What was it, 3 times in the end? Possibly even 4 times we saw the Mercedes cars make contact. Obviously, Qatar was the only big moment that the two of them had together. But I don't dislike that, Sally. There's definitely a chance of those two at least tapping wheels with one another. They're not overly respectful of one another's space on track, and I feel like that will be even less so knowing that they won't be teammates next season anymore. Can we get the likes up before the race start? Jamie's asking, not me. Jamie's asking, not me. So, you've got to do it. You've got to do it. Now, that would be absolutely amazing if we could get some likes on the stream. Then, of course, we go to Alex Albon starting in 12th place. I feel like Alex Albon starting in 12th place kind of went under the radar a little bit. I feel like that's good starting position for Alex Albon. especially if something goes wrong for those guys up towards the top end of the grid. I feel like the majority of these guys down here, the only way they're really going to sneak a point scoring position is if there is an incident, a reliability issue, or something goes dramatically wrong for one of the big boys. And, you've got Yuki Tsunoda in there, but I do think Ollie Behrman will have the race pace to be able to make moves forwards. It's going to be tricky at the race start. He's right in the middle of the pack. Like, he is going to be under a lot of pressure going into turn one. I feel like for him, his first Formula One start in a Ferrari car, 18 years old, like the fact that he can just say that, right? For the rest of his life, he can say he has driven for Ferrari. Whatever happens with the rest of his career, that is absolutely amazing. But the fact that Ollie Behrman's starting in that midfield pack, I feel like Alex Albon's a nice driver to start next to, though. You know what I mean? I can't imagine Alex Albon absolutely smashing into the side of Ollie Behrman for the sake of it. Whereas, like, some other drivers, you just don't trust 100% of the time. Alex Albon, I trust to be nice and safe moving his way through. Thank you, Dice, for subscribing to the channel. First time here. Did the race start yet? Not quite. We're about 10 minutes away. 14 minutes away. We're 14 minutes away from the race start. We're seeing the Saudi Arabian national anthem. Stefano Domenicali standing in the middle there. But yeah, I feel like Alex Albon's a nice driver for Ollie Behrman to work towards. He's got him right next to him. Follow Alex Albon through the first couple of corners, then get past that Williams later on down the line. Make sure you have a nice clean start, Ollie, and make sure you get the opportunity to show what you're made of. The worst thing in the world for Ollie Behrman would be getting down in towards turn one, getting wiped out and losing out on this opportunity, right? We want to see him do 50 laps in a Ferrari rather than half a lap or whatever it may be. Kevin Magnussen starts in 13th place. On track is in the chat. Have the Ollie Behrman race rating graphics ready. Yeah, that must have been a speedy turnaround on getting everything sorted for the race ratings. I like Fernando Alonso, says Anik. I feel like Fernando Alonso's in a good position. Likely to go backwards rather than forwards, in my opinion. But we'll have to wait and see. We're up to Kevin Magnussen. Kevin Magnussen with a banger of a performance in Bahrain, I felt anyway. A 12th place finish, starting in 13th this time around. I feel like Kevin Magnussen and Haas are much closer to a point-scoring place than we really give them credit for. Like, coming into this year, everybody had them as undoubtedly the worst team in Formula One and likely to get absolutely 0 points on the board. But right in the mix, 13th place, Kevin Magnussen there. 14th for Daniel Ricciardo. Slightly disappointing for Daniel Ricciardo, I would say. Just a little bit disappointing for Daniel Ricciardo because, he was pegged as the driver to come into RB, show that he's, really back to where he was before, and then eventually take a position at Red Bull. Does he look Red Bull standard right now? Sergio Perez doing a pretty good job still. I know Sergio Perez had a pretty terrible season last year. If Sergio Perez has a good season this year, and Daniel Ricciardo has a little bit of a meh season in an RB car, I don't know if that seat is absolutely guaranteed for Daniel Ricciardo. I feel like there is enough want for that Red Bull seat that a lot of drivers will put their name in the hat for it. And Daniel Ricciardo, I think, can't rest on the fact that he's Daniel Ricciardo. He's been there before, just to get him that position. Nico Hülkenberg starts in 15th place. Gutted for Nico Hülkenberg yesterday because Nico Hülkenberg is such a good qualifier. I think that's one thing that's really underrated about Nico Hülkenberg. Absolutely flies in qualifying, and that Haas car is pretty good at qualifying too. But the engine issue, 15th place, we'll see what he can do from there. It's going to be a long day for Nico Hülkenberg in 15th, I feel, because it's just in that kind of awkward spot where you're trying to make places forwards. It's going to be difficult though, because a lot of the cars around you are also, trying and desperate for that final point scoring place of 10th place. And it's going to be weird for Nico Hülkenberg. Hopefully a cleaner start than he had in Bahrain. Similar to what I said about Lance Stroll. Just like, hopefully a cleaner start so we can actually see what kind of race pace he really does have. Then behind that, Valtteri Bottas in 16th place. again, the stake, I just don't know yet whether the stake is going to be right up there or low down. Zhou Guanyu finishing 11th place, putting them 6th in the constructor standings. But Valtteri Bottas starting in 16th. We'll have to wait and see. Ocon and Gasly start next to one another once again. At least it's not right at the back of the pack. Alpine hold my baguette, indeed. Slowest team in Formula One at this moment in time. Just really falling apart at Alpine right now. Have got a video set up about what's going on at Alpine, but just didn't get the opportunity to film it over the course of the week. Might try and film it after this, maybe get it out tomorrow towards the end, but we'll have to wait and see. But I am concerned about Alpine, if I'm honest with you. Sargent in 19th place and Zhou Guanyu in 20th place. Sargent really disappointing. Like, if you look at, again, Albon in 12th place, just needs something, doesn't he? Needs something, Logan Sargent, to prove that he is worth that Formula One seat. So many people questioning him. And there's... How long does he get? I know he's going to probably get the rest of this season. I think that might be it, though, for Logan Sargent, especially on this kind of form. And then Zhou Guanyu, really unlucky. Well, not unlucky in the fact that he obviously crashed the car in free practice 3, which meant that the car wasn't put back together again in time. I think he missed out on setting a qualifying lap by about a second yesterday. So if the car was put back together a second earlier, then he would have possibly, qualified a little bit higher, maybe got himself into Q2, although his teammate didn't get into Q2. So maybe we'll see Zhou Guanyu. Well, I feel like we will see Zhou Guanyu move forwards in the race, but I don't think it's going to be another 11th place finish from Zhou Guanyu this afternoon. However, anything can happen in Formula One. We never know. There's always a twist in the Formula One tale, isn't there? So we'll have to wait and see. In fact, we're getting our first radio messages coming through. Oh, it's just the stake. Thank you, Lucas, for subscribing to the channel. Calling a red flag because the RBs came together and took each other out. Yeah, the RBs could also come together and take each other out as well. That would be another possibility, wouldn't it? There's a lot of teammate battles at this moment in time. There's a lot of teammate battles at this moment in time that are interesting and, developing at this point in the season to be more negative than positive. I would definitely say that. A lot of the time we have teammates quite harmonious in Formula One. Not this year. It does feel like most teams have got a pretty sort of tasty relationship developing between their drivers. I think mainly because there's so many drivers out of contract. And there's so many good drivers coming through in Formula 2 at this moment in time, like Ollie Behrman coming through, looking for a seat in 2025, Kimi Antonelli coming through. There's also kind of Teo Porcher, Felipe Drugovich, who have won Formula 2 that haven't got a seat at this moment in time. There's a lot of drivers and options for the teams out there that I think everyone without a contract is just a little bit tense. And the first person you've got to beat is your teammate. So there's a lot of teammate battles here that really are quite tasty. And then even towards the top end, you look at Hamilton and Russell. That is just becoming, more and more contentious because obviously Hamilton's leaving at the end of the season. Charles Leclerc and Carlos Sainz, same thing. Carlos Sainz knows he's out of the team at the end of the year. Doesn't really need to play to Charles Leclerc in the same way that he normally would. And there's so many of those little battles. But we're getting some radio messages, actually. I'll pop them up on the screen just so you can see them as and when they come through. Little radio checks for various members of the Formula One grid. 8 minutes to go was the call for Zhou Guanyu. Now down to 6 minutes to go. Radio check for Charles Leclerc. Radio check for Logan Sargent. I think we're ready and raring to go. In fact, I'm on brand. Treated myself. Went to oh my God. Logan Sargent with a small thesis to get him started. Plan A, 50 laps. Last 2 start lap 2 will be very good. Aiming to replicate that. Then, oh God, there's so much going on there in that message from Logan Sargent's engineer to him, isn't there? Do you take all of that in as a driver? I suppose you do, don't you? Radio check, Nico Hulkenberg to Gary, of course. Let's see them. Everything ready and raring to go. Just got a radio control message. Risk of rain in this Formula 1 race is at 0%. Thanks for that, guys. Thanks for that, yeah. 0% chance of rain in the race coming up. Is in a desert. Kind of makes sense. We are 5 minutes out, though. We're going to start to see the cars go for their formation lap fairly soon. I was interested, actually. The front end of Fernando Alonso's Aston Martin was off a little bit earlier on, but there hasn't been any updates on that, so it might just been the case that that is now back together again and all good. Who's in the chat then? Shall we say hello to some more people? Am I excited? V Lisa, I am very excited. As I said at the beginning of the stream, I feel like this one could be a banger. We've had a lot of good races in Saudi Arabia. They're always entertaining. If not the most, dramatic of races, they're always very entertaining. Alonso finished second on the Spanish Grand Prix the day Oliver Bearman was born. Wow. Thank you, Erica. That is a mental stat, isn't it? The fact that Fernando Alonso has just been around for so long. And even Lewis Hamilton. I was saying this yesterday. I think I started watching Formula 1 around the time Lewis Hamilton entered the sport. And the fact that he has been in the sport the entire time I've been watching it is just a bit insane to me. Just seems really weird. Can I stream the race? No, that is unfortunately illegal. The race itself, you have to pay for that. That's how that works, unfortunately, in life. Thank you, everybody, for 50 likes indeed. Harish, hello. Any big predictions coming into this then? You've got your final couple of minutes to get some big predictions in the chat as they're running down the starting grid. We really appreciate that. You love our circuit in Saudi Arabia. I do. Love the circuit and love the racing as two separate things. I think the track itself, I think Lando Norris put it well. It's not my favorite, but it's high speed. It's exciting. It's a street circuit. It offers a lot of challenge to the drivers. I do like it in that respect, but it's not like my favorite circuit on the entire calendar. I do enjoy it though. Feeling Max is going to go into Mad Max mode. We haven't really seen Mad Max mode in a long time, I would argue. He's become a lot more, I was going to say a lot more chill. He's not chill. On the radio, him and GP are still at each other like an old married couple a lot of the time. But he's definitely mellowed a little bit, I would say, Max Verstappen, in terms of his racing in particular. Although I suppose it's quite easy to say that when a lot of the time he's been buzzing around at the front of the pack. And even when he hasn't, he kind of knows he's got the overall speed advantage. So he hasn't had to do anything wild to get himself into a position where he can, fight for victories and put himself on podium places and various things like that. As we're seeing the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix, fireworks, are they? Is that a plane releasing fireworks? I think so. Difficult to tell what's really happening a lot of the time in Saudi Arabia. Kevin Magnussen to get a point. Absolutely love that, JB. That would be so entertaining if he could sneak a point. Obviously, Yuki Tsunoda, the man at the moment, sneaking into the points outside of those top 5 teams that have already picked up points this season. Do I think Lewis Hamilton has got a chance? In a word, no. But you never know. You never know in Formula 1. It just doesn't feel like Lewis Hamilton quite has the grip on this brand new style Mercedes car yet. Still feels like he's just struggling to really find the balance. Toto Wolff's talking about how he was running a really high downforce setup during the free practice sessions to see if that helped him a little bit. But if anything, it just made him slower than his teammate. So it's going to be tough for Lewis Hamilton. Hamilton breaks his seat again. Could happen. Could happen. Lewis Hamilton broke his seat in Bahrain, of course. That was a really weird... There was a lot of really small but strange reliability issues in Bahrain, wasn't there? There was a couple of brakes issues at Ferrari. There was an engine issue for George Russell. Engine issue for Logan Sargent. The broken seat for Lewis Hamilton. There was just lots of little niggles that I feel like over the course of this week... most of the teams will have probably put right. So we'll more likely see the out-and-out performance of a lot of these Formula One cars coming into this weekend. I hope Charles has good luck. Yeah, Charles can... I mean, Charles should have been on the podium last weekend, shouldn't he? But it is formation lap time. The lights have gone out. The 20 cars taking to the circuit. Ollie Behrman and Valtteri Bottas going for the soft compound tyre. Everybody else on the medium compound. So Ollie Behrman doing something a little bit special. I think that might, and this is just skepticism obviously, I think that might be to help him out a little bit on the race start. Because the race start, if you're on a softer compound of tyre, it's just a little bit easier to get those warmed up fully. And also it's a little bit easier to get them off the race start and make sure you're not like bogged down in any way. You don't have any wheel spin, anything like that as you start the Grand Prix. So I feel like that's quite a good decision from Ferrari there. Just makes the race start that little bit easier for him. Whether or not that will hinder his strategy a little bit later on down the line, we'll have to keep an eye out on. So it's looking like a one-stop race, I think most people have said. But he'll have to come in that little bit earlier, therefore go a little bit longer on the second stint. Probably will go soft onto hard, I'd imagine. It'd be interesting to see. Maybe he's going for a two-stop. Maybe he's going for a two-stop and he trusts himself to like properly sieve his way through the field in that Ferrari car. That would be intense from Ollie Behrman if he managed to do that. Let's get onto the detailed race board then for you guys. And see if we can break down where everybody is at. Formation lap still going on. Max Verstappen top of the championship and running around the final sector now. Charles Leclerc just behind. Sergio Perez in third place today. In second place in the championship, of course. Be interesting to see where Ollie Behrman slots into the championship standings at the end of the season. Assuming he's only going to get this one race. But a few points on the board could easily mean that he slots himself into quite a nice position throughout the entire season. Going to be awkward for my graphics. Going to have to start chucking an Ollie Behrman in there. Let's pop the track map up then, going towards the start of this one. And you can just see... Oh, Carlos Sainz is here. That is really nice to see. So, as I said, he has had that... Ooh. Gasly has a gearbox problem. Pierre Gasly starting from 18th place, and it might be over before it's even really begun. Gearbox problem for Pierre Gasly already. And we'll see if he... is he lining up on the grid, or has he decided to go straight into the pits, Pierre Gasly? Difficult to see at this moment in time. I think he stayed out, though. Valtteri Bottas taking his position. On board with Pierre Gasly. He's bouncing around, doing some burnouts though. Okay, maybe won't be the worst start in the world. Thank you, Henrik, for subscribing. He isn't streaming the race. It's illegal, apparently. I mean, it is. Yeah, just is. Just is illegal, I'm afraid. I don't have streaming rights. But let's get underway then. 5 red lights. And we are underway. Lando Norris does not get away very well. Max Verstappen, though, coming across to cover off Charles Leclerc. Sergio Perez trying to go around the outside of the Ferrari. And it's going to be on the inside of turn 2. Oh, they are so close to touching. And Charles Leclerc, Sergio Perez, wheel to wheel. Fernando Alonso's held on to 4th place. It looks like Lando Norris might have jumped Piastri. No, Piastri back in front. George Russell and Hamilton also in position where they were at the beginning. Now Oscar Piastri all over the back of the Aston Martin. Lance Stroll behind the Mercedes cars, though. And Yuki Tsunoda has dropped down to 10th. I think the board is taking a second just to load. There you are. Ollie Behrman doing really well, though. Under pressure. Tries to get past Yuki Tsunoda. Doesn't quite. Ollie Behrman sniffing the point-scoring finish. Already in lap 1 of this Grand Prix, trying to get alongside Yuki Tsunoda. Ends up staying there. Pierre Gasly box already then. You can see Pierre Gasly dropped all the way down to 20th place. And is going to have to box in his Alpine car. Is it over already for Pierre Gasly? God, Behrman properly putting Yuki Tsunoda under pressure, though. Looking like the most likely driver to make a move. Alex Albon's dropped down to 13th place as well. Kevin Magnussen moving up a position. Hulkenberg has got past Daniel Ricciardo and up into 4th place. Ocon with a really solid start up into 16th. Bottas down to 17th. And Sargent and Zhou have just stayed where they were. Gasly dropping into the pits. Here is Oscar Piastri. Go on, Oscar. Yes. There is the move from Oscar Piastri as the DRS becomes enabled on lap 1. And Piastri up into 4th place. Ollie Behrman, though, all over the rear end of Yuki Tsunoda as well. Yuki Tsunoda, though, trying to get past Lance Stroll. Goodness me, it is all happening right now. And now, Ollie Behrman was all over the curbs in turn 1. Is now under pressure from Kevin Magnussen behind. Of course, could end up being his Haas teammate. Ollie Behrman linked heavily with a Haas seat for 2025 over the course of last season, where he did the rookie tests for them. Now racing with a Haas just behind him. Would be interesting to see Ollie Behrman in a Haas car, I think. I'd like to see him in a Haas over the next couple of seasons or so, if possible. Obviously, it depends whether Kevin Magnussen or Nico Hulkenberg is going to make way for him. Be interesting to see which way Haas go with that decision. But moving back into the race, we're on lap 2 of 50. Max Verstappen still leads from 1.1 seconds ahead of Charles Leclerc. Sergio Perez is slotted into 3rd place as well. So we are as we were with the top 3. Oscar Piastri, though, putting Fernando Alonso to shame. Fernando saying that his car was going to be faster in a straight line and able to keep the McLarens behind. Well, Oscar Piastri proving him wrong, jumping up into 4th place. Lando Norris, though, under pressure from George Russell. Ollie Behrman with his DRS wide open behind Yuki Tsunoda isn't able to do anything this time around. Kevin Magnussen running in 12th place. Albon also looking for a little move, but stays 13th. Here's a little replay of the race start. I think it was Lando Norris. It just didn't get away very quickly. It was indeed Lando Norris, the really poor start. Almost caught by both Mercedes there. Was lucky because he got up the inside of Lewis Hamilton and then was just able to hang it around the outside of George Russell. But a really poor start from Lando Norris. Sergio Perez was right alongside Charles Leclerc as well, but they stayed where they were. Oscar Piastri is the only man to really have made a move in those top 7 or 8 places. George Russell, though, on the radio saying that Lando Norris jump started. So was it a jump start from Lando Norris where he started, stopped, and started again? Let's have a little look. Oh. Lando Norris. I think he has jumped, but the car's moved a few inches there. Lando Norris, whether or not he'll get called for a jump start, we'll have to wait and see. Sergio Perez, DRS, going down the inside of Charles Leclerc, and it's going to sweep into the 2nd place slot. Yes, he is. Sergio Perez makes that move on Charles Leclerc and jumps up ahead of the Ferrari. Sergio Perez then running 2 seconds behind his teammate and Charles Leclerc down into 3rd place. Oscar Piastri holding off Fernando Alonso. Fernando Alonso running 5th and fairly comfortably in 5th as well. A couple of seconds gap to Lando Norris, or a 1.5 seconds to Lando Norris because he is under pressure from George Russell. Lewis Hamilton also waiting in the wings just in case something happens. Lance Stroll is up into 9th place in his Aston Martin. Yuki Tsunoda in 10th. On board with Sergio Perez, gets alongside Charles Leclerc just down towards turn 1. Make sure he's in front of the Ferrari before turn 2 as well. Sweeps in front and takes that second place slot. Ollie Bearman, though, on the soft compound tyre, I am concerned he just needs to hold on to them a little bit. You know, it's the tyres that do really catch you out. The jump between F2 and F1, it's the kind of tyres, the compounds, the way that they work, how hard you can push them does change quite a lot. And that's something that we often see. You know, you think back to Oscar Piastri last year, incredibly quick, but often fell down a little bit with some of his tyres. Oh, Ollie Bearman. Doing well, Ollie Bearman, told that he is faster than the cars in front. I think that's a little bit of a go-ahead for Ollie Bearman to push forwards and try and maybe make a move on Yuki Tsunoda within the next few laps, although Yuki Tsunoda is all over the back of Lance Stroll. So the problem Ollie Bearman has right now is because Yuki Tsunoda has DRS to Lance Stroll, then the DRS that Ollie Bearman gets doesn't really give him that much of an advantage, if an advantage at all. There's Ollie Bearman's dad, alongside Carlos Sainz's dad as well. Carlos Sainz Sr., of course, rally driver back in the day. Very much looking on and seeing what Ollie Bearman can do. Perez taking the lead. Love to see it. Not quite yet. Not quite yet. Maybe. Maybe coming soon. Gasly is out. Yeah, indeed. He was pulled into the pits by Alpine on the opening lap, and it was a gearbox issue for Gasly. I genuinely feel like, was it even really worth starting the race? Obviously, they took that gamble. Makes perfect sense to do that, but was having gearbox issues on the formation lap was Pierre Gasly, and he is out of this one. Fernando Alonso is so good for 44. Absolutely flying, yeah. In fifth place, within DRS still of Oscar Piastri, just kind of holding on to the back of the McLaren, hoping that the McLaren either makes a mistake or that the tyres disappear from underneath them. Because as I was saying, that was the thing with Oscar Piastri last year. Often pushed his tyres just a little bit too far, and his race strategy was sometimes what was lacking. You know, Oscar Piastri, ridiculous out-and-out pace and incredible talent. But those are things that come with experience, come with time. And hopefully this season he's in a position now where he can hold on to that a little bit better. Because he's running in fourth place, ahead of his teammate by a couple of positions, ahead of his teammate by a good few seconds as well. You know, you look at Oscar Piastri, it's a very intelligent performance from him if he can get the strategy right. Yuki Tsunoda and Ollie Bearman just swapping who is faster over the last few laps. Bearman within 0.3 of Yuki Tsunoda, and crucially, Yuki Tsunoda has dropped out of DRS range of Lance Stroll, or has he? It's very close. Yuki Tsunoda is going to be right on the fringe as to whether he has dropped out of DRS range. It's bubbling around 0.9 seconds and 1 second, 1.1 seconds. So Yuki Tsunoda might have dropped out. Ollie Bearman with a chance to move into the point scoring places. That would just be so good to see. I'm kind of a Ferrari fan this weekend, I think. Just for Ollie Bearman. Oh! And Lance Stroll's in the barrier. Lance Stroll's in the barriers. Straight into the barriers. That's going to be a safety car. Most certainly so. Yellow flag in Sector 3. What happened there with Lance Stroll? I just caught the end of it. I was watching Ollie Bearman from above and just saw an Aston Martin fly off the screen in front of him. There's a lot of debris there. Little bit of, well, quite a chunk of front wing. Dangerously close to the track. Maybe. Yellow flag, though, just looking. Nobody is near that area. They might have enough time to run out and just grab the bits of debris. Nope, there is a safety car. Full safety car has been given. So, car number 18, which is Lance Stroll, is going to be out of this Grand Prix. And it's just that bit of front wing. Where's it gone? Yeah, the bit of front wing is just on the track. It's not, well, actually, yeah, it is in a dangerous position. You'd have to run out and grab. Bearman making the call. Box for Ollie Bearman. does make you wonder, are people going to come in then? Where is Max Verstappen? Coming around turn 2021. Are they going to pit? Obviously, save yourself about 10, 11 seconds if you pit under a safety car. Little bit early for the safety car window. 7 laps in to this Grand Prix. But Ollie Behrman looks like he's going to take that risk. Box for the Ferrari. But yeah, I think it's that front wing. If the front wing wasn't on the track, also on the track sort of close enough to the racing line that you're like, maybe not. Ooh, Leclerc in as well. So Ferrari double stacking. Sergio Perez coming in. Max Verstappen in as well. So Verstappen in. Perez in. Everybody opting to go for it early. Perez is going to lose out a little bit because of the traffic. Ooh, is that an unsafe release from Sergio Perez? Maybe. The Aston Martin and Fernando Alonso having to slow down to let Perez out. Hamilton staying out by the looks of things. Norris staying out by the looks of things as well. Piastri in, Alonso in, Russell in, Tsunoda in, Behrman in, Magnussen in, Albon in, Ricciardo in, Ocon in, Bottas in, Sargent in. Probably would have been better to just talk about the drivers that weren't coming in because the majority of the track coming in and changing tyres. Ollie Behrman getting out just ahead of Kevin Magnussen there as well. So stays 12th. Yuki Tsunoda ahead of him. Everybody onto the hard compound tyre though. So you can see who is stopped. So on the graphic there, if it says laps 0 or they're on the hard compound tyre, because I don't think anybody started on the hard compound tyre, that means that they have stopped during this. So Norris stayed out. Hamilton stayed out. Hülkenberg stayed out. Joe stayed out and Ricciardo stayed out as well. We have a new race leader in Lando Norris who is going to be ahead of Max Verstappen, at least for a few laps. But Lance Stroll out of the Grand Prix then after 6 laps of this Grand Prix. Too many for Lance Stroll. As a Ferrari fan, it will not be our season. I think it's very early to say that. There's Lance Stroll out of the Aston Martin car, just sitting by the side of the track. Was it? Let's see, actually. This is the first replay I've been able to fully see of this Lance Stroll incident. Oh! Clips the inside. Clips the inside wall. Ooh. Yeah, clips the front left tire on the wall. And I think that's broken the front left tire. Tries to brake and it's just straight into the barriers. Thank you, Regan Farmer, for becoming a member. Appreciate that. Lots of member stuff actually coming over the course of this year. I was talking about it yesterday in qualifying. We've got a race setup ready and raring to go. So I'm going to try and do some more members-only streams coming very soon. If you want to get involved in those, make sure you become a member. Click the link down below. Hit the join button. You also get lots of little emotes that you can use during the Grand Prix as well. And of course, you know, you get highlighted in the chat for me. If I see that you're a member, I can see all of your membership messages a little bit better. Safety car still out though on lap 9 of the Grand Prix then. Just seeing the cars coming down the pit lane. There is Lance Stroll's car being moved off the track. Yeah, it was going to have to be a safety car, wasn't it? Big crane coming on. Well, I don't know. I feel like the crane maybe could have lifted the car off the track without having to come onto it. But it'd have been very tricky. It was the front wing. The piece of front wing that speared off onto the racetrack. And it was a big chunk of front wing. If somebody would have hit that, that would have been devastatingly horrendous. Red flag it, please. Red flag right now would be crazy. Because Lando Norris would be able to come in, change tyres, and would be leading the Grand Prix. Hamilton would be 3rd if a red flag happened now. Hülkenberg would also be a massive winner. Zhou Guanyu would be up in 10th place if if there was a red flag right now, that would be... I mean, I'd take it. I'd take a red flag right now. Don't get me wrong. Stroll may be out now. Stroll most certainly out now. Along with Pierre Gasly, 2 retirements from the Grand Prix. Pierre Gasly with a gearbox issue on the formation lap. Tried to start the Grand Prix, but didn't even get to the end of lap 1. And then, Charles Leclerc held up in the pits. But still worked out okay. Still got out behind Sergio Perez. Will be behind Sergio Perez on the restart. What? Sainz has appendicitis. Yeah, Sainz out of this Grand Prix, but should be back for Melbourne. He had his surgery for his appendicitis and saw a few images of him like in recovery. So all good. Who do I think will win? I mean, Max Verstappen looks almost certain at this point. Lando Norris under pressure from Max Verstappen now. The team asking him to look after his tyres. Easier said than done when you've got a 3-time world champion right behind you, isn't it? Very difficult to do, says Lando Norris over the radio, and I think that's quite rightly said. 100 likes on the stream. Thank you so much as well. Leave a like, subscribe if you're new as we get back underway. Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri going for a move on Charles Leclerc. Into turn 1, Oscar Piastri not quite able to do it, and now leaving himself a little bit open to Fernando Alonso coming up the inside of the Australian. Doesn't make the move, though. Lando Norris maintains the lead of this Grand Prix. Charles Leclerc up into 5th place once again. Hamilton also did really well to fend off Sergio Perez there. Fernando Alonso stays 7th. Hülkenberg did really well, actually, to hold his position in 8th spot. Zhou Guanyu, now the driver, under pressure from Oliver Bearman. Still not quite in the top 10, Ollie Bearman, but in 11th place, ahead of Yuki Tsunoda now. Come on, Ollie. It's there. Although, to be fair, Hülkenberg, Zhou have both got a pit at some point. So is Lewis Hamilton at some point. Lando Norris too. So we could definitely see an Ollie Bearman points finish on the cards. Be interesting. Be interesting to see. Stroll out with a talent issue. Yeah, to an extent. To an extent, yeah. Unfortunate for him. Just clipped that wall. As soon as he clipped the wall, tyre dislodged, front left, just disconnected from the car and speared into the barriers in front of him, unfortunately, Lance Stroll. Why did we get a safety car? Lance Stroll hitting into the barriers. I think they also had to put the Tech Pro barriers back together again, so ended up being a little bit of a disaster for Lance Stroll there, unfortunately, and out of the Grand Prix. But here we are then, back around once again. DRS, of course, not enabled as of yet. Will be enabled on this lap. So DRS, the new rules, it's enabled 1 lap after the restart. But obviously, they have to get past the start-finish line. So DRS only enabled now in the Grand Prix. Although Lando Norris outside of DRS range of Max Verstappen on the medium tyre, it's going to have to go very long and hope for some kind of safety car to help him out. Alex Albon, oh my goodness, with some incredible manoeuvring under braking. Alex Albon under pressure, a Haas beside him. Oh! And Alex Albon's front wing is swiped out by Kevin Magnussen. Magnussen just comes across the front of the Williams. And there's not too much, really, Alex Albon could do. There's a wall on his right-hand side there, in my opinion. Here's that move from Ollie Bearman. Yuki Tsunoda goes to the right-hand side, then sweeps over to the left. He's given Yuki Tsunoda the runaround. Wonderful move from Ollie Bearman up into 11th place. Love that replay. Goes to the right-hand side of him. Yuki Tsunoda sees him peel off to the right-hand side. Then he ducks into the left. Goes up the inside of turn 1 and up into 11th place. Ooh. There it was, the unsafe release from Sergio Perez. I did think that at the time, but it's an incident. Sergio Perez and Fernando Alonso noted unsafe release. Lando Norris has also been noted for that the little jump that he did at the start, he obviously started, stopped, and then went again, did Lando Norris. So whether or not that will be the case, and he'll pick up a penalty for that, we'll have to wait and see. Max Verstappen getting to within a second of Lando Norris now in the Red Bull. I think Max Verstappen might just be patient here, though. I don't think he's going to do anything too crazy to have to jump up in front of Lando Norris in this one. How did Lando Norris take the lead? He just didn't stop. If you look over there, tyres, laps that have been on. So next to the tyre graphics, the amount of laps they've had on that tyre. Everybody has stopped and moved onto the hard compound tyre, apart from Lando Norris, Lewis Hamilton, Hülkenberg, and Zhou Guanyu. So those 4 drivers jumped up, and that's not their real positioning within the race, unfortunately, for those guys. They will drop back to where they should be, or were before the safety car, before the pit stops. Lando Norris, though, doing a really good job. Alex Albon on the radio. And Albon very unhappy indeed with Kevin Magnussen going to the stewards about that one. I think he did end up losing a bit of front wing, and then that also meant that he lost a position to Ocon. And Lando Norris is not going to give any fight whatsoever. Basically, moves out of the way and lets Max Verstappen take the lead of this Grand Prix. And whilst doing that, Sergio Perez has also jumped in front of Lewis Hamilton. So both of the Red Bulls jumping up into position. Verstappen first, Norris in second still. Perez back up into the podium places. Lewis Hamilton down to 4th place. Charles Leclerc running in 5th. And I don't think it will be too long before Charles Leclerc takes back 4th place from Lewis Hamilton either. When did Lando Norris take the lead? What lap? It was lap 7? 8? Safety car came out on lap 7. So lap 7 technically, I guess. But into lap 8. Ooh. What do I think about Lewis to Ferrari? The more I read about it, the more I understand it. Now, when I first saw it, I was a bit like, why? Why on earth is that happening? But now I've kind of read around it a little bit. And the position that Mercedes were in, the position that Hamilton was in, the fact that Ferrari had that opportunity to pounce and get Lewis Hamilton. Like, it's not every day you get the opportunity to bring in a driver of the caliber of Lewis Hamilton that is a 7-time world champion, that brings more to the sport than just being a Formula 1 driver. You know, he does have everything else going for him outside of that as well. So I kind of understand it more and more as I read more about it. But don't get me wrong, I was incredibly shocked to see the news of Lewis Hamilton moving along. And here we go then. Ollie Behrman on the inside of Zhou Guanyu. Can he make it stick? Yes, he can. Ollie Behrman up into 10th place, takes the position from Zhou Guanyu. And there it is then. Ollie Behrman finally has got himself into a point-scoring position in his Ferrari car. Come on, Ollie. I think a point-scoring finish, I said this before he took to qualifying, a point-scoring finish for Ollie Behrman in any capacity would be absolutely phenomenal. It just shows how good a driver he really is. Hamilton ahead is struggling on the medium tyres, as Oscar Piastri is told. Charles Leclerc is the next driver, though, to try and get past Lewis Hamilton. Can he do it in the Ferrari car? Oscar Piastri also within DRS range, ready to pounce on the Mercedes car if given the opportunity. Seeing a replay of George Russell here. What's happened with the Mercedes? Oh, it's an overtake. George Russell getting past Nico Hülkenberg. There it is. And Ollie Behrman, the replay here, going past Zhou Guanyu, peels off to the left-hand side. Does pretty similar to what he did to Yuki Tsunoda, really, off the restart. Gets to the left-hand side, make sure he's got the apex of the corner in front of him. Stewards, no further action on Lando Norris's jump start. So I think they're happy that he didn't gain any sort of advantage, because he did have to start, stop, and start again. So no advantage gained from Lando Norris. He slots in to second place still, but yet to pit. Charles Leclerc with a move on Lewis Hamilton. Ooh, nice little move from Charles Leclerc on Lewis Hamilton. Moves up into 4th place. Oscar Piastri next in line to get back past the Mercedes car. Of course, Lewis Hamilton out of position, you could argue, after not stopping under the safety car. Hamilton, oh no, Alonso on the radio. Any chance of plan B, says Fernando Alonso. I think looking at the pace of the McLaren car of Oscar Piastri, I think Fernando Alonso wanting to maybe go for a slightly different strategy choice to move himself into a position where actually he can go forwards instead of backwards and maybe challenge Oscar Piastri towards the end of the race, possibly put himself on a tyre advantage towards the end of the race, something along those lines, because not looking like he's going to catch up to them anytime soon. 2.7 seconds off the lead. And this is what I said, Fernando Alonso starting in 4th place. Sergio Perez, though, with a 5-second penalty. That unsafe release, I pointed it out when we saw it in the pits. It felt like an unsafe release. And it was indeed unsafe release from Red Bull. Sergio Perez with a 5-second penalty. So Charles Leclerc has an opportunity now to get in front of Sergio Perez once again. He's got to keep himself within 5 seconds of Sergio Perez at the end of the Grand Prix if he can. But the Red Bull is going to be tricky to catch. Nice to see some fresh drivers on the grid. Behrman getting some points would be exciting. I completely agree. Oh, Kevin Magnussen. 10-second penalty for that collision with Alex Albon, removing the front wing of the Williams. And that is a 10-second time penalty for causing a collision. So Kevin Magnussen running down in 13th place. I'm afraid, Jamie, your prediction of Magnussen getting some points is all but done and dusted with that 10-second penalty, I would say. Lewis Hamilton getting put under pressure. Oscar Piastri on fresher hard compound tyres. Lewis Hamilton yet to stop in this one on the mediums. The medium compound runners are going to go long, obviously. They're going to hope for another safety car to play into their hands if possible. But Oscar Piastri, DRS wide open, the Mercedes car. And Hamilton peels off, covers the inside line. So Piastri decides to go around the outside. Oh! And a little bit of carbon fiber goes begging. I don't know whose car that was off. But Oscar Piastri slots back in. Oscar Piastri having to go around the outside and eventually leave the track there. Did get in front of Lewis Hamilton for a moment, but obviously overtook Lewis Hamilton off the track. Gave the position back. Don't know whose car that little bit of carbon fiber came off of, though. Watching from a Burger King. That's an interesting place, the Versatile. I appreciate it, though. Monster Green, regular. Gives me life. I try not to have energy drinks, but I have treated myself to a little Red Bull this afternoon. Ooh, an Oscar Piastri. It's 50-50 for me, I think, that one. Oscar Piastri is alongside him. Obviously, Lewis Hamilton can see him, but just kind of squeezes him away from being any kind of problem. And here we go then, Lando Norris. Is he going to put up more of a fight with Sergio Perez? Didn't really put up any kind of fight. Did Lando Norris win? Max Verstappen went past. I don't think there's going to be much fight here either. Absolutely no fight whatsoever. Sergio Perez is past. And into turn one, Lando Norris drops into 3rd place. Again, Lando Norris on the medium compound side didn't stop under the safety car. Behrman scoring points. Sargent will be 21st out of 20 again. It's true. It's looking likely, isn't it? Looking very likely indeed. Although, at least it's not 22nd. What was it, Nick De Vries last year? 22nd overall. Liam Lawson, of course, picking up some points. Daniel Ricciardo picking up some points as well last year. The two drivers that entered the Formula 1 grid later. Ollie Behrman, though, this is just a one-shot chance at it. What happened with Ricciardo? Actually, don't know. Daniel Ricciardo, I think that might just be where he is. I haven't seen any incidents involving Daniel Ricciardo. There's no runoffs or anything with Daniel Ricciardo. I think he might have just missed out in the pits. Wasn't paying too much attention to him, if I'm honest. I'll see what I can do in terms of looking into Daniel Ricciardo's race and see if I can give you a little bit of an update. But yeah, running around at the back of the pack. Pretty torrid reading for Daniel Ricciardo fans. Yuki Tsunoda also was running up in the points, now down in 13th place, was holding off Ollie Behrman for a good chunk of the Grand Prix, but in 13th slot now. And Ollie Behrman going to make a move. Can he get up? Ooh, Ollie Behrman up into 9th place, ahead of Nico Hülkenberg. I like what I'm seeing. Oh, Nico Hülkenberg back in front. I don't like what I'm seeing so much. Oscar Piastri, though, right around the rear end of Lewis Hamilton's car. Can Oscar Piastri, can Oscar make a move anytime soon? Why are some of the numbers Ollie and Lance green? Where are you looking? Oh, if their last lap is their best lap, so far it goes green. Yeah, their personal best lap. I see what you mean. And Lance Stroll did his personal best lap and then dropped out of the Grand Prix. So that one's going to stay green for the whole Grand Prix. Sergio Perez, there you go. Fastest lap of the race for Sergio Perez. Not fastest lap overall, but his fastest lap of the Grand Prix. Lap 19 then. Almost 20 laps into this Grand Prix as Max Verstappen is going to cross the start-finish line. Pierre Gasly dropping out after the formation lap. Tried to get his car going, but was having gearbox issues from the beginning and decided to call it a day after not even a lap. Lance Stroll on lap 6 came in contact with the wall. Dropped out of the Grand Prix after clipping his tyre and going into the barriers. Everyone else decided to pit under the safety car, other than the medium compound runners. Lando Norris, Lewis Hamilton, Nico Hülkenberg, and Zhou Guanyu yet to pit in this one. Ollie Behrman putting a little bit of pressure on. And trying to see if he can get past Nico Hülkenberg. He was battling with Kevin Magnussen earlier. Ollie Behrman having a real battle with the Haas cars. And Haas is looking like the most likely destination for Ollie Behrman in the future. Interesting that he's had a little bit of a battle with Kevin Magnussen. Now having a little bit of a battle with Nico Hülkenberg. Actually getting frustrated behind. You see Ollie Behrman there on the radio. He's so slow. But the problem is, just can't get past him on the straights. That Haas car really quick in a straight line. Of course, both Ferrari powered. So Ollie Behrman needs to do something. Unfortunately, he's not in a Haas yet. So no team orders allowed. And no team orders are going to let Ollie Behrman through. Nico Hülkenberg fighting for position in this one. Yet to pit. Will move out of the way when he does pit. But Ollie Behrman looking at the back of that Haas. Trying his best to find a gap. Is it this one then? DRS is going to be open for Ollie Behrman down towards turn 1. There is the DRS line. Come on, here we go, Ollie. Up along inside him. There it is. There's the move. Ollie Behrman finally gets back ahead of Nico Hülkenberg. Was ahead of him momentarily before, but has got the full overtake done this time. Ollie Behrman up into 9th place and will now be hunting down George Russell, but George Russell on the same tyre compound. So it's going to be a little bit trickier to get that overtake done. Also, a considerable gap for Ollie Behrman. A little bit of clean air. This is where we'll actually see the real pace of Ollie Behrman here. He's got 5 seconds, the gap to George Russell. A lot of clean air in front of him. Let's see what kind of lap times he can pump in when given that a little bit of a freedom in front of him, Ollie Behrman. I would have loved to see Ricciardo in Ferrari. Wow. Approaching the end of standing for Danny Rick. Yeah, Danny Rick just hasn't been the start of the season I was expecting, to be honest. I was expecting it, well, very close to Yuki Tsunoda, obviously, last time around. We saw how controversially that ended, but just hasn't quite been of the level I think most were expecting from him coming into this. Danny Ricciardo. Love that, Ariosto, little bear. Oscar Piastri looking at the overtake. And no, still stuck behind Lewis Hamilton, Oscar Piastri. And Charles Leclerc also still behind Lando Norris. And the medium compound runners not doing anything too crazy. Another 10-second time penalty for Kevin Magnussen. Leaving the track and gaining an advantage. Kevin Magnussen, another 10-second penalty. So Kevin Magnussen's going to just end up falling all the way to the back of the pack in this one, unfortunately. He's just picking up penalty after penalty at this moment in time. Red Bull are too good. Yeah, they are absolutely flying at this point. Max Verstappen leading from his teammate. 6 seconds the gap. Then another 4.5 seconds to Lando Norris. And even he is on the medium compound tyre. So he's got to pit. Charles Leclerc 12 seconds off the leader, I think, at this point. So Max Verstappen driving around all by himself in this one. Lewis Hamilton, though, trying to fend off Oscar Piastri. Piastri still looking at the back of the McLaren car. And this is what we were talking about beforehand, where the McLaren just isn't as quick as the other cars in a straight line. And therefore, even with DRS, it's just tricky to really make up those positions in the McLaren. It's right on the rear wing of Lewis Hamilton. Tyres a little bit fresher, although the harder compound. But just can't make that move past the Briton and up into 5th place. Of course, he will have to pit at some point, so he can be patient. Can Oscar Piastri knows that at some point Lewis Hamilton will have to move out of the way. But Oscar Piastri quicker than Lewis Hamilton throughout the majority of the lap and just holding on to the back of the rear wing of the Mercedes car. But where it counts, Lewis Hamilton has got the advantage. Ollie Behrman, even though he's in that clean air, hasn't closed that gap to George Russell, actually leaving a little bit of time on the table, Ollie Behrman. George Russell with a 134.2. Ollie Behrman a 134.5. So actually just dropping away from the back of George Russell. So I think it's likely that Ollie Behrman will just sit in 9th place fairly comfortably at this point. Doesn't want to fall too far off the back of George Russell, because obviously Lando Norris and Lewis Hamilton have got to pit. So if he can kind of keep himself within 20 or so seconds of Hamilton and Norris, he will gain a couple of positions because of that, although they will have the tyre benefit towards the end. And there's Oscar Piastri. Oh, and a lock-up for Oscar Piastri as he tries to get past Lewis Hamilton and still can't get past him. The Australian so frustrated now behind Lewis Hamilton at this point. Yeah. 10 seconds penalty for Kevin Magnussen trying to get an overtake on Yuki Tsunoda. Does get the overtake on Yuki Tsunoda, but yeah. Did that overtake off the track? And I suppose you could argue like he did get the overtake done whilst he was on the track, but at the same time, he darts in front of him and then goes off the track in front. So the end of that one. 10-second penalty for Magnussen will put him back behind Yuki Tsunoda, as well as a good chunk of cars behind the Haas car as well. Hulkenberg and Zhou Guang, you also need to keep an eye on, just because they're on the medium compound tyre, will have to stop at some point. So majority of the cars will be trying to go all the way to the end on the hard compound tyre. Those on the medium can maybe play a little bit of a different strategy here. If they can hold on to their tyres long enough, they might be able to do something a little bit special. Maybe a soft compound tyre run towards the end of the Grand Prix. We are over halfway now in terms of the laps done. And the laps get easier on the cars. Obviously, the car gets lighter as it gets rid of some of the fuel. The track rubbers in a little bit more. It does make it easier on the tyres as the cars kind of continue through the race. So maybe sort of a soft compound tyre stint towards the end could be quite interesting to see. Will Hulkenberg score points today and score points in the 34 seasons? 34 seasons? That can't be right. What? But also, unlikely. Hulkenberg still has to pit at this point. You look at the gap between him and his teammate at this point, and him and Yuki Tsunoda. Like, he's going to have to drop in behind them. But unfortunately, not likely. I'm convinced only the bigger 5 teams have fans. Racing Bulls, Williams, Haas, Alpine, Sauber. I mean, I know Williams fans and I know Alpine fans. So that's definitely not the case. I feel like Haas and Sauber, maybe, just because of, like, I don't know, actually. I know a lot of Haas fans just through, like, Gunther Steiner more than anyone else. So maybe they're not Haas fans anymore because Gunther Steiner obviously is no longer there. And then you think, you know, Sauber, Racing Bulls, they've only just become back to what they were. I was a big fan of AlphaTauri when Gasly was there. I got literal Gasly merchandise above my head. But yeah, I know what you mean. It's difficult because when those teams are rebranded, they shuffle around so much, it's difficult to really connect with the team in that way. I suppose you have fans of the drivers. Like, there's a lot of Daniel Ricciardo fans, and he's in an RB. There's a lot of Yuki Tsunoda fans, and he's only ever been in an AlphaTauri or an RB. Oh, and Ocon making a move into turn 1. Oh my goodness me. Oh, it's getting close. Wow. Okay. Yuki Tsunoda stays behind Kevin Magnussen, 12th and 13th. Ocon slots in 14th. Albon stays 15th, but it's very close between those. A real battle for 12th place going on there. Real DRS train behind Kevin Magnussen. And it's looking like all of these cars could swap positions. Everyone with DRS, but a lot of movement behind Kevin Magnussen at this point. And Kevin Magnussen with like 20 seconds worth of penalties as well is kind of the neck or the cork in this bottleneck. Let's see if people can move past Kevin Magnussen and what the battle between these cars will end up being. This is where, you know, you're looking at the possibility of one of these guys towards the back of the pack maybe come into contact and causing themselves some issues. Here's Charles Leclerc making a move on Lando Norris. Finally gets past the McLaren. It's been a long time coming, that move from the Ferrari man, but goes for it and gets it done. Charles Leclerc up into 3rd place. Lando Norris still yet to stop on the medium compound tyre. Drops into 4th place. Oscar Piastri still frustrated behind Hamilton as well, so it's not looking amazing for Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri in this one at this moment in time. Thank you, Richard, for subscribing. Appreciate that, mate. If you could, everybody who is here, leave a like, subscribe if you're new. That would help out the channel massively moving forwards. Check out a video, maybe, you know, open another tab. Just pop a video on in the background. Why not? Treat yourself. Treat me. Williams is legendary. Exactly, yeah. There's definitely Williams fans. Definitely Williams fans. When it becomes Audi, become online, yeah, I think more so. When it becomes Audi, they'll build up a bit more of a fan base, right? They'll be kind of, I suppose Mercedes are also like the German team on the track, but they'll build up a little bit of a German fan base. Depending on the drivers they get in as well, they could end up picking up quite a few fans because of the drivers that they pick up. Like, I feel like most Aston Martin fans are just Fernando Alonso fans. Like, Fernando Alonso has a huge following because he's been in and around Formula 1 for so long. I want Tesla to do something with Formula 1. I mean, they'd more likely go Formula E, no? Just saying. All the drivers behind Magnussen are complaining about his braking style. I mean, he has picked up 2 10-second penalties for colliding and also overtaking. So he's not having a great day as Kevin Magnussen when it comes to battling, to be honest. The flying just subbed. Thank you so much, mate. Come on, Red Bull. I mean, it's looking fairly safe, isn't it? Max Verstappen 7 seconds ahead of his teammate. Another 8 seconds to Charles Leclerc in the podium places. 15 seconds separates the top 3 drivers. Then you look at the battle towards the back of the pack. Magnussen, Tsunoda, Ocon, Albon, Sargent, all within DRS of one another. That's where the real battling is happening right now. Oof. Esteban Ocon under pressure from Alex Albon. Albon with a broken front wing as well, by the way. The damage on the Williams car has not slowed Alex Albon down an inch. He is desperate to get past the Alpine. And he's trying to go around the outside of the Alpine. Oh, and Ocon just squeezes Alex Albon out of it. But Albon is vicious. He is going for moves left, right, and centre as Alex Albon at this moment in time. Battling for 14th place at this moment in the race, but all of those positions count to those guys at the back of the pack. Oh, Leclerc, just looking for an update on him. If we were to stop, we lose 1 position. I'll take it, says Charles Leclerc. So looking at Charles Leclerc now, how far behind is Lando Norris? Lando Norris only 2 seconds behind. Charles Leclerc wants to possibly move though, although Yuki Tsunoda making moves of his own. Yuki Tsunoda up the inside of Kevin Magnussen. Magnussen's going to try and come back at him in turn 2. They're going to be side by side. And Magnussen squeezes out Yuki Tsunoda, which opens the door to Esteban Ocon. Ocon's going to try and take that move and does. Yuki Tsunoda squeezed off the track by Kevin Magnussen. Didn't want to bang his RB into the barriers. And Esteban Ocon picked his pocket a little bit there. Ocon up into 13th place. That is going to be some feisty driving, I would say, from Kevin Magnussen over the course of the Grand Prix so far. He is definitely not scared of putting his Haas in the mix. Behrman keeps picking up pace. He might be able to close in on George Russell. It was a 10th quicker last time around. He has closed the gap a little. It was 6.3 last time I checked in with Ollie Behrman. Now down to 5.7. But only 20 laps to go. It's going to need a little bit more from Ollie Behrman to really close that gap to George Russell. Yuki Tsunoda on the radio. Dangerous driving for Kevin Magnussen. And maybe another second penalty on the way for Kevin Magnussen again. Yuki Tsunoda not very happy with the Dane. Ocon, DRS wide open. Also going to have a little look at Kevin Magnussen if he can. And Ocon just filing behind Kevin Magnussen this time around. But definitely wants to have a little move. Ocon does love it around here, doesn't he? I think Ocon has had a good few Saudi Arabian Grand Prix where he's been pretty quick off the mark. Holding on to those tyres in the Alpine. Enjoying himself a little bit more than Pierre Gasly is right now, at least. Magnussen on the radio. Given the go-ahead. Absolutely brilliant, says Kevin Magnussen's race engineer. And Magnussen is going to go wholeheartedly for this 12th place, although he's gonna put penalties on, so bit of a weird one. Hamilton is holding on. Hamilton's doing an amazing job. Piastri has been all over the back of him for as long as I can remember. Hamilton's just been able to hold up. And don't get me wrong, he lost positions to what? Charles Leclerc? But apart from that. And Albon with a little naughty on the radio. It's getting very tense between 12th, 13th, 14th, 15th, and 16th right now. There's a lot of, back and forth between these drivers on the radios. A lot of calling for stewards to have looks at various things. Dangerous driving, naughty calls. Everyone's really going for it in this battle for 12th place. Esteban Ocon, rear wing wide open once again, looking at the back of Kevin Magnussen's car. But no, Kevin Magnussen stays in 12th. And I suppose it makes sense, really, because Nico Hülkenberg hasn't pitted yet. Zhou Guanyu hasn't pitted yet. So this is 4 possible points here. Kevin Magnussen, this position. Although Kevin Magnussen's going to drop backwards. So Esteban Ocon is on for a point-scoring finish here, We're looking at Lando Norris dropping back about 20 seconds. We'll put him, just ahead of Hülkenberg. So Lando Norris and Hamilton are going to drop backwards, possibly behind Ollie Behrman towards the end of the Grand Prix, So Ollie Behrman's going to be under fire from Norris and Hamilton towards the end of this Grand Prix by the looks of things. Now, Hülkenberg and Zhou are going to move backwards as well because they've got to pit. So looking at the fact that Magnussen is 20 seconds or so. This is so clever. Kevin Magnussen is trying to slow down the pack. Now I get it. Why have I not seen this line before? That is so ridiculous of me not to notice that. Kevin Magnussen is trying to slow down the pack so that Nico Hülkenberg can come in, pit, get out in front of his teammate, and then Hülkenberg is still in the point-scoring positions. There we go. I finally put that together. Jesus Christ, that took me ages. I was like, why is Kevin Magnussen defending for his life in this position? He's actually defending his teammates' point-scoring plays. So even though Kevin Magnussen has got a 20-second penalty and is going to fall back in this pack, he could basically guarantee Nico Hülkenberg a point-scoring position as long as Nico Hülkenberg can stay in front of Zhou Guanyu, and he is miles ahead of Zhou Guanyu. So yeah, whoa, this is really good from Haas. Wow, okay. I'm involved in this now. I'm interested in this battle. I was a bit confused on Kevin Magnussen and why he was defending like an absolute lion from the back of the pack here, but now it makes perfect sense. 19 laps to go, 18 as Max Verstappen crosses the start-finish line. And let's see, Nico Hülkenberg could be in with a point here. Wow. Let's see, Lando Norris still hasn't pitted. Hamilton yet to pit. Hülkenberg and Zhou yet to pit as well. Let's have a little look at that gap then. So Hülkenberg, 49 seconds off the lead. Magnussen, 69 seconds off the lead. So Magnussen just needs to pull him back just a couple more seconds, really, to give Hülkenberg the best opportunity possible. Kevin Magnussen with a real train behind him now. You can see Magnussen, then Ocon, Tsunoda, Albon, Sargent, Ricciardo has joined the back of this pack. Bottas is now joining the back of this pack as well. Doing an incredible job is Kevin Magnussen here. Ocon having another look at the Haas car, but Magnussen just parks his car on the apex. Oh, and there's Alex Albon. And a move from Alex. Whoa! That is a late braking maneuver if ever I've seen one from Alex Albon. What a move. And Yuki Tsunoda drops down into 15th place. The Williams up into 14th. That was so late from Alex Albon. I loved it. Absolutely loved it. Thank you for the subscription, Speller. I hope I'm saying that right. Speller. And Pratik as well. Probably come up on the screen in a second. Thank you so much for the subscriptions. If you are new, hit subscribe. We are live for every single qualifying, sprint race, and Grand Prix throughout the entire season. 2 down. Well, almost 2 down. 22 yet to come. So lots still to happen this year in 2024. Alex Albon trying to unleash himself from behind Kevin Magnussen. James Vowles on the pit wall saying he's frustrated, wants to move forward. There's the call. Box. Nico Hülkenberg, you just seen it on the transcript. Box for Nico Hülkenberg. He's going to come in. He's in the pits. Quick stop from Haas. Can they do it? Pit stop time, 3 seconds. It's not amazing. Nico Hülkenberg on the pit exit. Where's Kevin Magnussen? He's going to get out in front of his teammate, and Haas have done an absolutely incredible job there. That is stunning from the Haas team. Hülkenberg, fresh set of hard compound tyres, comes out in 11th place, 10 seconds behind Zhou Guanyu, who's going to pit from the point scoring places. Bravo, Haas. Well done indeed. Ollie Behrman getting some positive feedback, doing a mega job. He's doing really well. 9th place, holding on, not really losing that much time to George Russell. They're kind of back and forth, around 5.5 seconds behind. But Nico Hülkenberg is on for a point scoring position here. Oscar Piastri is behind Lewis Hamilton once again. DRS wide open on the McLaren. Is he finally going to get past? He goes over. No. He locks up, has to go off the track, and Oscar Piastri drops back into 6th place behind Lewis Hamilton. It looked like the move was finally going to happen. I know that Hamilton has to pit, and I know that Oscar Piastri is going to get that place anyway. But I just want him to overtake Lewis Hamilton, please. Here's the replay. Oscar Piastri moves over to the right-hand side of the track, gets alongside Lewis Hamilton, actually gets his nose in front of Lewis Hamilton down towards turn 1, locks the front left tyre, though, has to go to the escape road, and obviously can't overtake from that position, has to give the position back to Lewis Hamilton once he rejoins the track. Thank you, Sai, and thank you, Don, for subscribing as well, and Hanif as well. Appreciate you all subscribing to the channel. Welcome. 15 laps left to go in this Grand Prix. Max Verstappen just going past the start-finish line there. And we are ready and raring to go. 15 laps left. Nico Hülkenberg is looking like he's going to get some points on the board, with Lance Stroll being the guy to drop out of the top 10. You know, we're expecting those big 5 teams to pick up the point scoring places the majority of the time. But Lance Stroll, collision with the wall, has opened up an opportunity. Kevin Magnussen, his race engineer, just still giving him the go-ahead, giving him that little bit of fight. Can you just give Nico Hülkenberg the opportunity to make sure these points are without doubt in the pocket of Haas? 15 laps left to go, Hülkenberg ahead of his teammate, but Ocon, Albon, ready to pounce if the opportunity arises. Zhou Guanyu also is still there, by the way. I know the gap is 9 seconds, but Zhou Guanyu still yet to pit. Norris and Hamilton there as well. How far is Hülkenberg off Norris and Hamilton? Oh, a mile off Norris and Hamilton. That is absolutely fine. Norris is going to come out around Behrman, isn't he? Behind Behrman. Behrman's looking like he could pick up, what, a 7th place finish here? It's going to drop a couple of... it's going to gain a couple of places, because of Norris and Hamilton here. And Oscar Piastri looking at the back of Lewis Hamilton once again. DRS wide open. Doesn't get the move done this time around. I think I've said that maybe 20 times in this Grand Prix. It's just felt like Oscar Piastri is staring at the back of that Mercedes car almost constantly at this point. Love the content. Thank you, Eknor. Appreciate it. Oh, and Lewis Hamilton into the pits. Oscar Piastri was about to get him then. Just about to get him, I tell you. But no, Hamilton into the pits. Soft tyres on Lewis Hamilton's car. Here you go then. Lewis Hamilton is going to come out, as I said, behind Ollie Behrman. But he's going to have a soft compound tyre advantage. How far off Ollie Behrman is he going to be, though? Ollie Behrman actually making his way around turn 1. A good chunk of time ahead of Lewis Hamilton. He's going to have a little battle with Lando Norris on his hands as well, though, by the looks of things. 7.5 seconds Lewis Hamilton has got to make up in 14 laps. So he's going to have to do 5/10 a lap plus get in front of Ollie Behrman. Ooh, this is going to be a hard task for Lewis Hamilton. Oh, Fernando Alonso. A little kiss with the wall for Fernando Alonso indeed. Nearly both Aston Martins causing chaos in this race. Fernando Alonso kissing the wall at turn 9, but looks to be okay and continuing on. George Russell is actually only 1.5 seconds behind Fernando Alonso now, because Alonso had to slow down a touch just to make sure his car was in working condition. Verstappen still leading. We haven't actually seen Max Verstappen in a very long time. There is the call for Lando Norris. Box, box. The McLaren into the pits on the medium compound tyre. So just Zhou Guanyu left to go then. In terms of the pit stops, it is soft compound tyres for Lando Norris as well. Oh, that is a slow stop. 4.1 seconds. That is a very slow stop. Anthony Joshua, of course, linked to Alpine, is seeing Pierre Gasly in 20th place out of the Grand Prix. And Lando Norris comes out in front of Lewis Hamilton. So there you have it. Ollie Behrman up into 7th place. Lando Norris and Lewis Hamilton, who stayed out. They risked it. Not really what they wanted, though. Look, you got to remember what Lando Norris was running. Should really be running 5th, Lando Norris. Started just behind his teammate. If he would have pitted when everyone else did, he'd probably be in 5th place now, Lando Norris. Instead, finds himself 8th. And a real task on his hands. Where is he? So he is 6 seconds off Ollie Behrman. So has to do a similar thing. If he's going to get past Ollie Behrman, he's going to have to close in by about a second a lap, which is going to be a hefty task for him to do. We'll keep an eye on their lap times. Obviously, once they've done a full lap, not including a pit stop. Lewis's hammer time, indeed. But Lewis has also got to deal with Lando Norris, who's in front of him. Wait, has Lando Norris gone onto hard compound tyres? I think so, you know. Looking like it from the graphic. I thought they would be soft compound tyres almost guaranteed for Lando Norris. With 10 laps or so left to go, 12 laps left to go. Oh, no. Oh, no. Zhou Guanyu, 37 laps in, is just going to hang out in 10th place for as long as he possibly can. Lewis Hamilton actually looking at the back of Lando Norris. Now, there's soft compound tyres on Lando Norris's car. I think the graphic is slightly wrong. There you go, it's updated. Soft compound tyres for Lando Norris. I thought that was a bit weird. I was like, nah, there's no way he's got onto the hards from that position. Soft compound tyres for Lando Norris. 6.1 seconds the gap to Ollie Behrman. And Ollie Behrman might have a McLaren in his rear wing mirrors at the end of this Grand Prix just to test him once more. As if chucking him into a Ferrari car wasn't as big a test as possible. Mick Schumacher's got to be looking on and be like, if I was still a Ferrari junior, I'd be in that car right now. But left Ferrari, of course, at the beginning of last year, joined Mercedes at the beginning of 2023 and is now alongside Toto Wolff in the garage for 2024. I think he's also taking part in something with Alpine. Is he in the Endurance Championship with Alpine this year as well, Mick Schumacher? But still a reserve driver as well for the Mercedes cars. Lando Norris, though, let's have a little look. 5.7 seconds behind Behrman. You never know, actually. Lando Norris might be able to do something here. I'm in two minds. The McLaren side of my mind is saying, Lando Norris, you know, I want him to move forwards and get as many points as possible. But there's another side of my mind that loves seeing Ollie Behrman in that Ferrari, given an opportunity as a young Brit to go for it. And I'd quite like him to finish 7th place. I feel like that is a very, very solid finish from Ollie Behrman, given the circumstances. Started in 11th place, of course. And, you know, you're looking at the drivers in front of him. Russell, Alonso, Piastri, Leclerc, Perez, Verstappen. Was he really going to be able to battle with any of those? You know, Carlos Sainz at this point, I think, would maybe be 4th. I would guess. So, you know, instead of finishing 4th this weekend, Ferrari have got a car in 7th. Not too big a drop in terms of points. Might come back to bite them towards the end of the season, of course. But There's still 22 races to go, and I think Ollie Behrman has done an exceptional job, is what I was going to say. WEC Alpine Hybrid. Thank you. Yeah, Bob, I knew it was an endurance of some sort with Alpine. I miss Carlos. He'll be back, don't you worry. He's in the garage, actually, for Ferrari. Yeah, had his surgery already back in the garage. Has a couple of weeks just to rest, recuperate. I think they go straight to Australia from here. They might, they might pop home, I guess. Lando Norris, 13 seconds back. Having a bit of a fight with Hamilton. Fernando Alonso in qualifying mode now. Norris is flying, to be fair. Closing that gap now. 4.9 seconds the gap to Behrman. But it's not guaranteed that Norris is going to fly through this pack, you know. Mainly because they're getting in each other's way. Ooh. Lando Norris weaving on the straights. Ooh. That would be an interesting one to have a little look at. There's a bit of movement there from Lando Norris. Goes right, then covers left, covers right, covers left. A little bit of weaving on the straight there from Lando Norris. Might go to the stewards for a little bit of investigation. Yeah, black and white flag. Weaving on the straight. Lando Norris, by the looks of things. In terms of my race control. Thank you, Ruben. He won't be driving in Australia, will he? I think he should be. He's had his surgery and he's literally in the garage today. Striking distance, Lando Norris, Ollie Behrman, 6 laps. 9 laps left to go. It's going to be close. It's just whether Ollie Behrman has got that final push in him. Has Ferrari got anything they can give him? An engine mode, an extra bit of something. Just an extra something to get him. Or Lewis Hamilton, if he could, cause a little bit of a headache for Lando Norris and maybe start weaving around on the straights again. Costs Lando Norris some time. That would be also interesting. That is the thing, yeah. Driver of the Day vote has now opened. Is anyone going to be voting for anyone other than Ollie Behrman? Is a good question asked by the Sky team. I think to come in, he's done an incredible job. Zhou Guanyu pits. And guess what, ladies and gentlemen? We have a Haas in the points. At this pace, will Norris catch us, says Behrman? Yes, he probably will. 4 seconds, the gap now between them. Kevin Magnussen with 20 seconds worth of penalties in 11th place. But Nico Hülkenberg deserved some points last weekend for his performance in qualifying. Oh my God, it's another wheel nut issue. It's another wheel nut issue for Stake. This is what happened to Valtteri Bottas in Bahrain. They had a wheel nut go wrong. They've had exactly the same thing. Looks like it happened to Zhou Guanyu there. And I mean, Zhou Guanyu wasn't in the points or anything like that, but still, that was absolutely horrendous stop. Goodness me. Can you say hi to me? I can, F144. I'm guessing you're a Lewis Hamilton fan. How does Max or his car not even mess up once? It is insane, isn't it? Max Verstappen is so consistent. It is ridiculous. Like, just don't understand him. Kevin Magnussen, driver of the day, is not a bad shout either, He did an insane job to defend from... So he was defending from Tsunoda to begin with. He defended from Ocon for a little while as well. He held up that whole pack. Ocon, Albon, Tsunoda, Sargent, Ricciardo, held them all up a ridiculous amount. He's done so well as Kevin Magnussen and basically got Nico Hülkenberg his point, right? Hülkenberg stayed out on the medium tyres, stayed out, waited until Kevin Magnussen had pushed everyone as far back as he possibly could, then jumped in, got the pit stop done, Hülkenberg up into 10th place. And, you're looking at it, Nobody else from those bottom 5 teams has picked up a point yet this season. And the only reason you could argue Hulkenberg is picking up a point is because Lance Stroll is out of the Grand Prix. So the only opportunity that these guys are going to get to pick up points is when somebody in those top 5 teams has an absolute mare or retires from the Grand Prix. So the fact that Hulkenberg has picked up this point is actually going to be a huge thing moving forwards. It puts Haas in a great position just early on in this season. And I think could be really, really exciting to see what happens. Lando Norris now 3.6 seconds behind Ollie Behrman, was 0.3 quicker last lap was Lando Norris. Also, these soft compound tyres are not going to last forever. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens there. Max has a cheat code. Not necessarily a cheat code. He's just so consistent. So unbelievably consistent. Never puts a foot wrong. He's just a robot, unfortunately, Max Verstappen. You know, you look at champions. I think Max Verstappen is the most robotic champion we've had in a long time. You know, even when Lewis Hamilton had a very, very consistent car, and I feel like people are going to criticize this opinion, even when Lewis Hamilton had a very, very consistent car and was clearly the fastest in the Mercedes, he still had, you know, the odd race where he would make a mistake, where things would go wrong for him. But Max Verstappen just doesn't have that. Like, the car is so consistent. He's so consistent. Everything around him works absolutely perfectly. And it's just so oppressive, isn't it? Max Verstappen's consistency at the front there. We haven't seen him at all this Grand Prix because he is 8 seconds ahead, or 7.5 seconds ahead of his teammate. And we haven't needed to touch him with him. Max Verstappen could pit now and come out second. He's 20 seconds ahead of Charles Leclerc. With a good pit stop, could come out ahead of Charles Leclerc in the Ferrari. Insane stuff. Charles Leclerc also 11 seconds ahead of Piastri. Ollie Behrman on the radio, giving the go-ahead. Come on, Ollie. Lando Norris, 3.5 seconds behind, but struggling with those tyres. Okay. If Lando Norris is struggling with those tyres, that'll be very interesting, because he was closing that gap pretty swiftly, was Lando Norris, but it seems to have stopped a touch. Lewis Hamilton in 9th place. John Elkin, the Ferrari chairman, comes over, stands with Ollie Behrman's dad, just gives him a little bit of a heads up. There's also Carlos Sainz's brother there. Is it his brother? I want to say it's his brother. In front of him. Adrian Newey is the cheat code. Doing pretty good. Alonso carrying Aston Martin. I mean, Lance Stroll was very good in Bahrain. He's just made an absolute howler here. And didn't he make a mistake last year here as well? Lance Stroll. No, Lance Stroll, I don't think it was an error. Wasn't it an issue with the Aston Martin car? He definitely DNF'd from Saudi Arabia last year as well. But I think it was an issue with the car. Whereas this one was an issue with Lance Stroll. Unfortunately for him, 3 seconds the gap now to Lando Norris. But Lewis Hamilton's causing a little bit of a headache for Lando Norris is the problem. Because DRS wide open, it means that Lando Norris does have to defend down in towards turn 1. And because he's defending, it's costing him a little bit of time. And therefore, Ollie Behrman is just about holding on to those tenths that make it so that he's going to hold on to 7th place in this. Verstappen, Perez, Leclerc, Piastri, Alonso, Russell, Behrman are top 7. Lando Norris and Lewis Hamilton on the soft compound tyres, the only guys looking like they could swap positions in some way or another. And then Nico Hulkenberg in 10th place. Take a bow, Haas. Done very, very well indeed of Haas today. Such a good job at making sure they got there. 200 likes on the stream. Thank you so much, guys. Appreciate the love and support. This year's streams have been going exceptionally well. Love to see it. Thank you to all of you guys that have joined recently. We do stream every single qualifying session. I try and do every sprint qualifying, sprint race, and Grand Prix as well. So we are here for every single session that you need to watch this season in Formula One. What's my favorite circuit? Singapore. It's on my shoulder. It's just there. Telling Verstappen to stop winning. 6 straight years of Hamilton dominance. It was different, though. The Hamilton dominance felt different. It felt different. I know what you mean, though. Still dominant. Dominance is dominance, right? But it did feel a little bit different when it was Lewis Hamilton compared to Max Verstappen, who is once again gonna take the victory here in Saudi Arabia. It looks like he's actually slowed down a touch, has Max Verstappen, because he's lost a couple attempts or so to his teammate in the last few laps, but nothing even close to being competitive, unfortunately. Perez will stay second, Charles Leclerc in third by a considerable margin as well. Oscar Piastri fourth, Alonso fifth, Russell sixth, Behrman in seventh. Lando Norris and Lewis Hamilton, you have to say, I think they got it wrong here. I think they got it wrong in terms of the strategy with Norris and Hamilton. They're in 8th and 9th place. Hulkenberg in 10th place. Kevin Magnussen will not finish 11th, but he's done his job for the team. He's done insanely well to get Nico Hulkenberg into the point scoring places, hold back everybody else in that pack. And Magnussen, with 20 seconds worth of penalties, is going to drop behind the likes of Albon, Ocon, Tsunoda, Sargent. But I feel like he will still be more than happy that he is going to take home a point for the team thanks to his defensive maneuvers. Deserve the success. Thank you so much, Sally. Appreciate that. Max not happy with Yuki's overtake. I was in the blue flags. I was going to say, what? But yeah, Yuki Tsunoda has just been lapped. That's why. And maybe Yuki Tsunoda just getting in the way a touch of maybe his future teammate. Unlikely, but you never know with Yuki Tsunoda. Thank you, GPR, for subscribing. If you are new, leave a like, subscribe, all that good stuff. I think we've hit 200 likes on the stream. Last year, the record was 300. I think Bahrain managed to hit 500 likes, though, in the end. That does include quite a lot of people who watch, obviously, after the live stream goes out. They don't watch live with us. They watch it after the fact. But yeah, 500 likes is now the record set. So if you want to try and beat 500, hit that like button. We'll see if we can beat that over the course of the 2024 season. With a couple of laps left to go, I think this is the first time we've seen Sergio Perez on our screens in a while. Sergio Perez, 7 seconds off of his teammate, but rattling around in the Red Bull car. Of course, got his first ever pole position here in Saudi Arabia, did Sergio Perez. Has won here last year. So Sergio Perez moving towards a much better 2024 than 2023, although it started off pretty well last year, didn't it? So we'll have to wait and see how it goes throughout the entire season for Sergio Perez. Also checking in with Charles Leclerc. Haven't seen Charles Leclerc in a little while either. He's been all over the back of this kind of podium places, 11 seconds off. Oh, here's Daniel Ricciardo. What's happening down in 16th? Oh, a spin. Daniel Ricciardo makes a mistake in turn 1, gets over. Oh, wow. Yeah, sorry, Daniel Ricciardo goes down towards turn 1, gets all over the curbs, loses the rear end of his RB, and actually spins out and has to do a little bit of a pirouette to get himself facing the right direction once again. He's still 16th at this point. Valtteri Bottas and Zhou Guanyu a good time chunk behind, so unlikely that they'll be able to do anything, even with Daniel Ricciardo spinning out on the track. As Max Verstappen starts the final lap of his Grand Prix. And he has managed to lap everybody up to Ocon at this point. I think Alex Albon might also get lapped by Max Verstappen. I don't know, actually might just about be able to finish the Grand Prix on the actual lap of racing. Favorite driver ever, Jenson Button for me, I'm afraid. Here is Ollie Behrman, though, starting the final lap of the Grand Prix. Lando Norris still 2.5 seconds behind Ollie Behrman. The Briton is going to do it. He's going to hold off. And we're actually going to finish with all 4 Brits in 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th place. They're all going to be next to one another on the final standings. George Russell winning the Battle of the Brits in this one. Ollie Bearman coming 2nd in his Ferrari. Lando Norris 3rd. And Lewis Hamilton, the 4th fastest Briton this weekend. It's going to hurt the 7-time world champion. But here it is. Max Verstappen round the final corner. Going on to the final straight. The Red Bull team celebrate Max Verstappen coming home. Another victory for Verstappen. Made it look simple. There's Sergio Perez in P2. A 1-2 once again for Red Bull this time around. And Charles Leclerc is going to come home in 3rd place and pick up his first trophy of the season. Back-to-back podium places for the Ferrari drivers. Carlos Sainz the last time out in Bahrain. Charles Leclerc 3rd this time around in Saudi Arabia. Oscar Piastri with a stunning race in 4th place for McLaren. Fernando Alonso 5th. George Russell 6th. And there is Ollie Bearman across the line in 7th place. Take a bow, Ollie Bearman. What a performance from him. And Ollie Bearman's dad almost in tears. What a performance from the young driver. He was supposed to be in a Formula 2 car this weekend. He's turned up, he's delivered, he's been chucked into one of the top 3 cars on the Formula 1 track, and he has given it an absolutely stunning performance. He finishes ahead of Lando Norris. He finishes ahead of Lewis Hamilton in and amongst this. What a performance from Ollie Bearman. Absolutely brilliant from him. And Nico Hülkenberg has taken the advantage. Lance Stroll hitting himself into the wall, dropping out of the top 10. And Nico Hülkenberg for Haas, of all the teams, has jumped up into 10th place. Wow, what a performance from Nico Hülkenberg and the Haas team. Kevin Magnussen also deserves all the respect for that defensive performance. Kevin Magnussen pulled off an incredible defensive performance to give Nico Hülkenberg that 10th place finish. Albon slots into 11th place. Magnussen behind in 12th. I don't know whether or not that has applied the penalty as of yet for Kevin Magnussen. May drop even further. Obviously had 2 10-second penalties to his name. Esteban Ocon 13th, Yuki Tsunoda 14th, Logan Sargent in 15th place, Daniel Ricciardo in 16th, and the 2 stake cars, the final finishers, in 17th and 18th place. Lance Stroll dropped out of the points after a collision with the barriers. He drops to 19th place, only took part in about 6 laps of the Grand Prix, although Pierre Gasly even less than that. 1 lap for Pierre Gasly is all he got. A gearbox issue on the formation lap, came into the pits on lap 1, and we did not see the Frenchman from then onwards. So, Max Verstappen, Sergio Perez, and Charles Leclerc, your top 3 once again. Thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate you all stopping by, leaving a like on the stream, subscribing to the channel if you are new. We're going to be back again next week. No, 2 weeks' time, sorry, for the Australian Grand Prix. We'll be live for qualifying and the race for Australia. But I will also be putting out content over the next couple of weeks. There's shorts coming, there's videos coming, there's lots of things coming to the channel. So make sure you're subscribed. Also, I will be live tomorrow for your hot takes. Head over to the community tab. So hit the channel link below. Head over to the community tab and get in your hot take from the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. I'll be reacting to all of your guys' hot takes from Saudi Arabia tomorrow. Thank you guys so much. Jamie, you did indeed predict the wrong Haas, but definitely have to be happy with a point for the Haas team. That is going to be absolutely pivotal to their season. 3 cheers for Ollie Bearman indeed. Thank you, everybody else. Ariosto, the Magnator. Of course, yes, love that. He absolutely defended like a lion, in the words of Fernando.